Hi, I'm Chris Nessie from the House of EdTech Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to right now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Tools for Teachers podcast, where each week we talk about a free piece or two of technology that you can use in your classroom. I'm your host, Shanna Martin. I'm a middle school teacher, technology and instructional coach for my district.
And I'm her producer and husband, Fuzz Martin, and I'm totally not artificial intelligence.
Nice.
Hello.
So clever.
Yes.
So many things. Guess
I've
what?
I can
Play with
during the
episode.
Great. Well, this week, I went to Slate this week.
You did.
This past week. It was really fun.
Do they have slates in every state?
No, I don't think
It's just a Wisconsin thing?
No.
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin thing. And it's a leadership technology conference.
Okay.
It's always really fun to go to Slate because you get to see cool, fun technology for schools. And I've been enough times. I've presented a few times. And you just kind of get to know people. And you kind of see all these cool, a lot of it's teachers and instructional coaches and tech coaches and tech people for districts and things like that. And we always have a good time. There's always a lot of learning that happens, 6 sessions and 2 keynotes and partridge in a pear tree.
Do you know what SLATE stands for?
I do. It's something like, I forget the S. It's leading education and technology, or leading, I used to know.
School leaders. Advancing technology in education.
So I have all the words there, just not in the right order. We were at Slate this weekend. It's a lot of fun. What's cool is they talked about some AI tools that I've actually talked about here on the podcast. This year we're on our various episodes. We've talked about AI. We had part 1 and part 2 already here on the podcast for episodes. I think episode 162 was our part 2, and we had episode 159. So we've talked about a few of those at the conference, which is cool. Magic School is a big one that everyone uses. I didn't hear many people talk about EduAid very much, and I really like EduAid.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of cool, fun technology things and a lot of AI things. And I know I've talked about AI a few times, or different ways to use AI in your classrooms this season. But guess what? This will be part 3 because I have a few more
great
AI tools. And
it's obviously very relevant these days.
It is very relevant. And there's so many of them out there. And I keep telling teachers that I talk to, they're like, well, which one do you use most? Which one do you use most? I'm like, okay, well, it depends on what I'm using it for.
Yeah.
You have to find which tools work best for you, like any sort of technology. So I love to introduce a bunch of technology to people, different websites, different apps, different Chrome extensions, and then from there, find which one works best in your classroom or for your situation.
Yeah.
So I will continue to introduce these, and then you can find what works best for you.
There you go.
I have a lot of teachers that are like, I love Magic School for the rubrics, and then they might like EduAid for setting up different types of questioning in the classroom. So it depends on what you're most comfortable with and how much time, word of time that you have to play around with stuff. So this week.
And what tools
your school allows you to use.
Also very true. And age appropriateness for your students. So we have AI part 3 this week. I have 2 tools. One of them is funny. I actually found it through one of my students.
Okay.
And then the other tool I got from a cool session at Slate. So the first one we're going to talk about is QuillBot.
QuillBot.
So when students are using AI, obviously we want to teach them to use it. If you're comfortable introducing it in your classroom, that it's a tool in your classroom and not bot's going to write your paper for you. Because guess what? We can totally tell. It's one of those where this is a tool that would definitely help some students support them. I could also see that if students aren't taught how to use it correctly, they're going to try and use this for writing their stuff for them.
Sure,
you have to know your students with what would be appropriate, but this could be a tool that you could use, especially for middle school, high school students. So it's called QuillBot. What I appreciate about this is that it works in different languages. So For our students who are using other languages, either in language class or if they need things translated, we talked about EL students last week. QuillBot works in English, French, Spanish, and German are the basics. But then it also, as a whole list, you click all, there's at least 20 different languages that QuillBot can work in. And the website for QuillBot is QuillBot.com. So QuillBot. They do have an upgraded premium version. I'm just going to talk about the free version.
Yep.
And so what you can do with QuillBot is you can put in a piece of text and then ask it to paraphrase for you. So if you're reading part of an article and there's a lot of information there and you're like, hey, I just can't process all of this in my brain. I need to try and figure out what this is actually saying to me. You can take a piece of text, you can just copy it, paste it right in or rewrite it, and then click paraphrase and it will shorten up what you are trying to say. And so it helps students be able to understand. And sometimes there's various forms of AI that can reduce the amount of text on a page.
Yeah.
There's different versions where you can definitely level them. This would be like for short excerpts of information when it's just so much to process in your brain and you're not quite sure where else you want to go with it. So you take a piece of text, you can click on something. I've got an article here on dinosaurs, so that's fun. And then I'm just going to take the text, move it over, see what it says, and we'll shorten it up. And it's really nice because when you're doing it, you're able to just cut, paste, and then paraphrase it. So the paraphrasing with the dinosaur article is amazing. I dropped in 2 paragraphs of information and it has brought it down to 97 words, simplified it, made sure that we have switched to another species, includes a collection of younger specimens and a single pair of teeth. Like it summarizes the information and makes it a little bit easier, which is nice. You also can adjust to see like if we want to rephrase it. So if you're like, hey, that's a little like unclear, we want to make that a little simpler, you can do that. It can teach students how to paraphrase because I know a lot of my kids either take all of their information and like try and re-say it.
Yep.
Like you can definitely, we can summarize that, we can bring that down and help students kind of understand that process of paraphrasing too, which is nice. QuillBot does more than just paraphrasing. So you can do it like there's different modes. So you have standard, you can do various forms of fluency. You can have a more formal mode of paraphrasing versus an academic mode. And then it shows you like different uses for that. You can simplify it, which is helpful. You can add it more creative. You can expand it. You can shorten it. So there's all these different pieces within paraphrasing that you can do depending on what you need the text for and or how you want to practice that wording to be. So again, it's a great tool to be using as long as it's used appropriately. And yes, you can tell really quickly if a kid's going to like try and drop this into their writing and pretend like it's theirs.
Sure.
Down the side, also, there's additional tools. So what's helpful besides the paraphraser, if you're on the left-hand side, you can scroll right down. There's a grammar checker. So you can drop your text in, kind of like Grammarly would be or something like that. But there's an option for a grammar checker. They have a plagiarism checker. Yeehaw. That one you do have to have the upgrade. So it's something to be aware of to get the full-fledged plagiarism checker. There's a co-writing tool that can help support you, kind of like Bard would be or any of those additional co-writing tools. There's a summarizer, which is another thing that I like and I think is useful is to have it summarize text kind of along with paraphraser. They work similarly, which would definitely help students. But I like that it also puts things into bulleted points, which a lot of times bullet points are what you need out of a piece of text. Like these are the things I need to understand, especially if students are researching and they have these really big articles to research and they're not sure exactly what pieces of information they need from that. So I find that to be helpful as well. And then they have a translator, which is huge for students if they need support in the classroom. So that's pretty cool too.
Cool.
So QuillBot, Paraphraser, has all kinds of cool different tools that you can use and different things that you can use to support your kids in the classroom, as long as it's used as a tool to help them learn things.
Learn things with a
robot.
Yes. Nice. That's slightly creepy.
Is it?
It is a little bit.
This one creepy.
A little bit. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Along with QuillBot,
Uh-huh.
we have another fun one. Actually, you and
This
I
one
were
is
playing with this one throughout the week.
My
Because
favorite.
when I learned about it, I then had to send you all of these pictures, and then you started sending them back to me.
Yes.
So, Adobe, which we love, has lots of paid things, but they also have some free things. And it's called Firefly.
Firefly.
So it's Adobe Firefly, and it's in beta mode. And it's firefly.adobe.com. And Adobe Firefly is so cool. It's an AI generated image creator, which there's a bunch of them out there, but this one's fun. What it does is when you go to Adobe Firefly, you are able to go through and prompt. I'm going to type in a Cocker Spaniel in the mountains in the middle of summer with sunglasses.
Nice. Okay.
Okay. So what's cool about this is once you type it all in and it's all cutesy and beautiful, you just hit the prompt, you click generate. Now, while it does take a second to generate, and while it's generating, I'm going to talk. What's cool about this and what we were discovering is that there's lots of options beyond just pulling an image. So you can choose if you want different types, you have different flexibilities. You want to look like cut out paper, or if you want it to have a different shaded background, or if you want it to be more sepia tone, whatever you want. So you're able to do that along with creating these pictures. I am going to put this one in the deck when we have the pictures on the website because they are so cute.
I tried to describe you and what you're wearing right now. And
wow, she looks fancy.
She does. She's wearing
I don't look that fancy.
Well, you kind of look that fancy. She has
longer hair than I do.
Longer hair. And she's wearing a white shirt and you're wearing a black shirt.
And she's outside.
I said a female podcaster with brown hair wearing headphones, talking into a microphone, wearing a plaid sweater vest.
Oh, we got the plaid sweater vest, right? We are fancy.
Yeah.
So what's cool about this whole thing is that it gives you 4 variations, which I like. It's not just one picture. Mm-hmm. It gives you 4 variations. And then from that, you can rate your result. Do you love it? And then you can choose to edit it as well. So then it'll drop you into Adobe and then you can edit your pictures as well. So that is an option. There are Firefly Image 1 choices and Firefly Image 2 choices as well that you can pick from. And on the right-hand side, that's where you can swap out to have different styles.
Mm-hmm. You can make it artsy or a photo-ish. Mm-hmm. You can play with the style strength and match different images for their style. We evaluated Adobe's AI generative tools with one of their reps. And one thing that I noticed even here when I created this version of you through AI is Adobe is very good at representing other cultures other than just white people. Mm-hmm. So even the results that I received, it's a very
a diverse mix of people.
Yep. And so that's one thing that I think is really cool because if you look at some of the other tools that are out there right now, they don't have a lot of diversity. And so it's cool to see that there's more of an inclusive tool that way.
Yes. And that's important because all of the tools should be that way.
Oh, they should. Yeah. I mean, it's just that they've done a really
They're
good
conscious
job
of it. Yes. And making sure that's the way it's set up. I also appreciate too that when you're in there, the more descriptive you get, obviously, the more specific the images you will get. But if it's a more general description, you will have lots of choices. So if you want to have that option in there, you can as well. So that's pretty cool too. So Firefly, there's so many ways to use this. So when you're talking about can you export the files? You can. Different ways of sharing the files you can. Depending on your account you have, it'll connect to your regular Adobe account as well. Yeah. You can also see what other people have created, which is kind of fun. If you look through on the homepage, if you just Firefly Adobe and you're not in the creation part, and you just click the back button, you can see what other people have created. So we have a Lego-ish version of a chinchilla. Maybe that's what that is. Or there is cool dragon images, things like that. So there's other ways you can see what other people have created too, which is kind of cool. And you can just describe the image you want to generate, and then it will generate cool pictures for you. You get 4 options, then you can use them as you choose to and share them different places and things like that. Another thing someone was asking is if you can turn them into vector files or SVG files. And you can. It's not straightforward. Okay. So you have to export it out and then put it through Adobe. But you are able to do it if you try.
Sure.
So that is another discussion because one of our teachers who does a lot of 3D stuff with our students was wondering if you could turn it into vector things. So that was just a discussion that we had on the side. But Firefly with Adobe, Firefly by Adobe, is very fun for an image generator. And what did you just make?
Oh, say photo. So they've gotten really good at like details and textures on photorealistic stuff.
Uh-huh.
There's still some things like pupils, which are tells, and then also I'm going to show you her teeth.
Oh, interesting.
She's got 2 rows of teeth in the front that when you zoom in, you can see that there's like a row of teeth behind the first row of teeth.
Yeah.
So,
kind of like shark teeth.
kind of nightmare inducing.
That's amazing.
But maybe it's the Shark Tooth podcast. Maybe that's. We'll put that one in the.
Yes, you can see you can tell it is like AI generated.
From far away, it looks great.
It does, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So we just had to share a few more AI tools with you this week because there were so many cool things and I wanted to share some more. And they're fun to use and our students are finding them. So it's good for us to know what our students are getting into.
Yeah.
So thanks for tuning in. This has been the Tech Tools for Teachers podcast. If you ever have any questions, you can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter @SmartinWI or on Threads. And if you want to get more information on the links to the technology discussed in this episode, you can visit smartandwi.com. If you'd like to support the show, please consider buying me a coffee or two. Visit buymeacoffee.com/smartandwi or visit smartandwi.com and click on that cute little purple coffee cup. Your donations help keep the show going. New episodes each week. Thanks for listening. Go educate and innovate.
The ideas and opinions expressed on this podcast and the Smart NWI website are those of the author, Shannon Martin, and not of her employer. Prior to using any of the technologies discussed on this podcast, please consult with your employer regulations. This podcast offers no guarantee that these tools will work for you as described, but we sure hope they do. And we'll talk to you next time right here on the Tech Tools for Teachers
podcast.